on the understanding that the guy who runs the churches down there was doing something with the ombudsman, was he not? Yeah, so okay. Righto, so now we move up to number 7, Coastal Hazards Adaptation Plan for Lyttelton Harbour to Port Levy. We've got a mover and seconder, Samuel? Sam? So, generally, are we all happy with this? Or would Jane like to talk for... All right, we've got a presentation far away. Go for your life.
Oh, kia ora koutou. I haven't actually got a presentation. Let you down there, sorry. We are seeking today an agreement to adopt the draft Coastal Hazards Adaptation Plan for Whakaraupo, Lyttelton Harbour and Koukourarata Port Levy for consultation. I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that's gone into this from the coastal panel particularly, but also from Koukourarata and from Ngāti Wheki. Council staff right across the building, Specialist and Technical Advisory Group and our amazing independent chair. And lastly, also I really appreciated the input of the Coastal Hazards Working Group. I just would say with the plan, we've reached a high level of convergence across all parties, which has been through a lot of discussion and debate. So, yeah, really happy to answer any questions that you have today.
No questions apart from Sarah?
Sorry, unrelated to the actual plan itself, the hearings panel, given that this is a large piece of work with very high value long term of works and things, what sort of size do you know we're expecting for the hearings panel?
That would be me.
Oh, sorry, Megan.
Yep.
Yes.
And I haven't quite got that far yet. I'd be open to the council appointing people if they so wish. Sorry? I hadn't thought of it being the full council. If the full council wishes to appoint themselves as a hearings panel, that I might have to revisit the date I had set aside.
Yeah.
But happy
At
to...
2036.
I'm just like, are we... Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a huge number of submissions the last round. I'm not sure we would be expecting a huge number again. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to either. I'm open to a 5 or
I'm quite happy
or everyone.
if the full council wants to appoint itself as the hearings panel, or a smaller group. I'll leave that
Okay, we'll
to you to...
come back to you on what we come up with.
Okay.
That was possible dates. That if we can get a date for the
Yep.
fall, we can.
Okay.
Otherwise we'll come back.
Tim?
Yeah, it would be good to get an idea of the thoughts around the acceleration of sea level rise, because I've heard differing ideas with regards to its acceleration. So to the point within the next 30 years, if it is going, if you're looking at worst case scenario, this amount of $215 million may be irrelevant in the sense that if it is going to double in level, then we've got a real problem. But I mean, you know, not that we haven't already, but this isn't going to be a be all and end all and solve all. This is just a journey in wherever we end up.
Yeah, I'll take part of that question, but I might throw the other bit to Tom. Because we're using signals and triggers, we can respond faster if we need to, if sea levels rise at a faster rate. But in terms of those more extreme end scenarios, I don't know if Tom's got any comment on that.
Yeah, first I guess I'd add to what Jane said there is that the reason that we retain alternate options or pathways within the adaptation plan is for exactly that reason. So if things accelerate, we might need to shift tack, change options depending on the pace of future change. Certainly, there's a lot of science moving in this space around the impact of the acceleration of the breakup of the Antarctic ice sheet, and if that's of significant interest, then perhaps it's something that council staff could present back to you, and we could always get other experts to support us in that sort of presentation as well.
Because it would be good to get to a point where, because there's a bit of debate, as we know, around the modelling, and modelling is always a shifting feast because science changes, but it would be good to try and get a line in the sand, no pun intended, to work out how we go forward.
Okay, Aaron?
Yeah, on that with the monitoring, are we monitoring the sale of property and that around a lot of these zones and water edges and things like? Are we seeing a movement by the public in there? What once was an appetite to live near the water, has that swung, and are we monitoring it?
No, we're not monitoring it. Anecdotally, until relatively recently, we've been hearing that some of those properties are holding their value, but it's starting to look as though things may change reasonably quickly, with insurers introducing more risk-based pricing, and signals are definitely being sent. The government's just completed their inquiry into adaptation, and they are indicating that one of the key levers they're intending to use is providing people with risk information so they can make better decisions.
And so on that, on the better decision stuff, because I'm in favour of letting people live wherever they want to live, but it's on them. So going forward, will we be drawing a line where whatever happens with sea level rise, if it goes like Tim said and accelerates at double the rate or whatever, we're not coming to your rescue. You bought the property knowing you've got a great view and fish are easy to catch and surfing's easy, but if it goes the other way, we don't come to your rescue. Are we going to do that?
We're looking to the government to establish the framework around these issues. One of the points that we've been making to MFE and they have picked up on is that at the moment we're not enabled to withdraw certain kinds of services, and other providers of infrastructure like electricity aren't also able to withdraw services. So there are some legislative, enabling changes that need to be made before we could, take the stance you've kind of suggested we could take. But
no, it's not on the services. Services are fine. I don't mind that part of it. It's more the case of in other parts that have flooded in the city, people say, well, council's got to buy my house now because I get flooded. So what will happen? Will we do that around coastlines and go, actually, no, we won't be buying anyone's properties?
To some degree, we are waiting for the outcome of this inquiry. The government said they'll report back by the end of the year on their next steps. There is a potential for some legislation to be introduced in the third quarter of next year that clarifies these issues. I think we've seen with Cyclone Gabrielle, there's been a cost share between central and local government, and our view has been reasonably adamant that in terms of private property purchase, that would be a central government-led, best be a central government-led intervention. But we are waiting to see what the central government proposal is before we react to that.
Okay, cool.
A couple of things from me, Jane. Insurance companies will be the ones that pull the trigger on that, really, in the long run, won't they?
Yeah, and banks.
Okay, just a question from me, and I'm sorry I haven't gone that far into it. Take the likes of the Teddington Strait. Did we decide to actually, and I'm sorry I didn't look at it, at one stage we were looking at buying land on the further up the hill, so to speak, or did we decide that we'd lift that up? I can't remember.
So the recommendation of the panel has been towards raising a section of road. So
some roads here and there.
Yeah, so this is the Charteris Bay section east of Gebbies Pass, and then the recommendation of the panel for the section of road west of Gebbies Pass has been to retain that section of road level at the existing height.
Okay, because I was around at ECAN the other day, and we shouldn't lose sight of, knowing how much gravel costs to buy carts through tunnels, over hills, all over the place, we shouldn't lose sight of that we've got a quarry right, well, we haven't, there is a quarry right there, and they should always look at, if you can make the gravel or the rock on site, it's a damn sight cheaper than carting it for miles and blowing carbon up in the air. So I just told them that we shouldn't lose sight of that because it's right on your doorstep. So I'm just throwing that out there. So we've got a mover and seconder, have we not? Sorry. Yes, Pauline, sorry. All right, so we're debating. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to speak in favour of this motion. like a lot of people, I've got an older brother who is quite fond of giving me advice, and
That you don't listen to.
well, sometimes I do. And he's often saying failing to plan is planning to fail, and that's something that I take on board, and I think that's the case here. Like the impacts of whatever you want to call it, like climate change, sea level rise, coastal erosion, land movement, or whatever, they're happening regardless of whether we plan for it or not. And so it's really important that we get in front of the curve as a local authority and do this planning. Things will change. Look, this is a 20, 30, 50, 100 year beyond discussion, but it's really important that we have it now. There are some things that people will not be comfortable with, but again, the fact that we're planning for it will enable us to have those conversations in advance rather than having knee-jerk reactions. So in that regard, I really want to praise the team who have been involved. They've really engaged so deeply with the local community. I mean, there was a comment earlier about taking the community with you rather than doing things to them. I really feel that they've taken the community along the way. You've seen that in the makeup of the coastal panel. You see that in the way that they've done workshops with the community, the way that they've visited residents associations and all that. And again, people don't always like to hear it, but this team have been knowledgeable. They really know their stuff. They've been professional all the way. They've gone above and beyond, and they've created a template. This is not just about Whakaraupo and Koukourarata. This is about, we've got a lot of coastline in Christchurch, and this is providing us with a template of how we address some of those major challenges that a coastal city like Christchurch is going to face. So really, really big kudos to the team there. Just another couple of things, like Teddington Strait, for example. Like this is not new stuff as well. Like Teddington Strait has been. I've got a resident who frequently calls me up. His name's Rex Gebby. By the name you can imagine that he probably knows the area very well. And he said Teddington Strait's been underwater in his lifetime. It's happened before, it will happen again, and the key thing is that we're planning to be able to address it with the resources that we have and do it in the best way that we can. So with that, support the motion, and yep, cheers.
Yeah, well said. Look, just I agree with everything you've said, Councillor Fields. Yeah, this is a 30 to 100 year look into the future, and we are getting ready. This is an exemplary piece of work that we should be so proud of. So proud of. And the illustrations in here are just brilliant, and that referring to Teddington Flat, I always thought it was, but anyway, how vulnerable that is. And the Chair's report is excellent, the introduction, saying that we have already seen sea level has risen by 10 centimetres over the last 15 years. And it's not all about how high the sea level rises, it's actually what we're facing now is risks of these severe events that bring an incredible inundation. And we did have a little shake on the Hikurangi Fault a couple of weeks ago, and that is the one that will bring a massive tidal wave in here. So we have to be prepared for those scenarios and the damage that will do, and how to address that. So we've got the other issue of who pays, of course, and that's something to be addressed later. We've also got our own infrastructure, not just people's homes, and that's, I think, the focus of the council, really. So this, as Councillor Fields said, this is the first cab off the rank. This is the model that we will use to work with communities across the city in all the vulnerable areas. This is an incredible success story, and I can't praise staff highly enough for the way they have conducted themselves with the community. They've identified the communities and worked with them really carefully. I particularly like this one in the middle too, which is showing the lifeline links through the harbour and how important it is to retain those. So it shows you, I think one of them goes to the Governor's Bay Jetty actually, so good move there. And we've got the Koukourarata right around there. So if the roading fails, this is all being thought about incredibly deeply. So look, I look forward to the feedback from the community, and it's not, I can't see this being incredibly contentious because people have come along with it. So I think it would be a really good process if the whole council was the hearings panel, because we've all got an interest in this. And I think the community would like to talk to us as well, particularly. So, and being live streamed as well would be helpful for the community, the rest of the city, to be informed and to see how we are preparing for the future, which is coming upon us quite quickly. And not in a fearful way, but just in a smart way. As in here, there's opportunities as well. So yeah, well done to staff and well done to everybody in the community that's participated.
Kel?
Yeah, just to finish off, I was on the Coastal Hazards group and totally agree with everything that Councillor Fields and Deputy Mayor Cotter have said. I was really impressed actually with the words, the maps, the pictures. It makes it very, very clear what the options are and where we're going to go. I think it's an exemplary document. It's obviously years in the making, mistakes learned over different consultations. So communication is something I'm always really interested in. I think we can do it. We can always do it better, but this is probably the best I've seen from council. I love the maps. I love the pictures. It makes it very, very clear what the alternatives are. So yeah, happy to support it today.
Tim?
Yeah, thank you. Outstanding bit of work, and the more work that our staff do, the harder it starts to look at, because if you're looking at this plan, which is outstanding, Whakaraupo, Lyttelton Harbour to Koukourarata, Port Levy, which is estimated to be costing us around $215 million. And then you go to Whakaraupo, then you go to Little River, and then you go to the Sumner, Brighton, etc. As Councillor Fields said, we have a lot of coastline. But then if you go out, New Zealand is basically a coastal country. And we have, my family have interests in the Southern Hawke's Bay. And if you look at any kind of photos we have with regards to climate change, Tiawonga is the one where you see the houses going in to the sea, and Halmoana, and etc., where my family, my wife's family, have interests. So yeah, we're surrounded by it, and we're really conscious of it. But the concern I think we have to be is when we do this work, we've got to be realistic and let everybody know that everybody is affected by this, and this work has to happen, and we've got to be realistic about it. It may not be affordable in another 30 or 40 years, but we've got to do the work, we've got to understand it and see where we're going. And we've got to support the science to back the rated modelling, which it's essential so we can do our planning for the city. So I want to thank staff, and let's see where it ends, and hopefully it'll end soon.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. Yep, Sarah?
Kia ora. I'd like to start by thanking staff. It has been a huge piece of work. It was initially disrupted by various lockdowns and the inability to work with the panel, the coastal panel, and also thank the panel and the chair for their enormous work over a long period of time. They have been to meeting after meeting. They've looked at all of the information. They've talked to their communities, and it's been about the public realm. So currently council's responsibility is for public realm only, which is why the government had to come to separate arrangements with the councils that had to be voted on for the 50-50 split for the impacts on private property after Cyclone Gabrielle and the Auckland anniversary floods. That may change. So it may be legislated in a year or two that councils will share the responsibility, the financial responsibility for private property as well. The last estimate for Ōtautahi Christchurch was $3.5 billion worth of public realm at risk with only 20 centimetres of sea level rise, but $14 billion worth of private property at risk with 20 centimetres of sea level rise in a large storm event. That's $7 billion on our council. That's a lot of money. And so planning appropriately, making sure that we have multiple plans in place that cover all of the areas that are impacted is going to be crucial over a period of time. We do need that certainty from the government as to what our responsibilities are. It's actually quite difficult to have high trust conversations with the communities coming up if we think that the rules might change halfway through. So I'm really hoping that the government get it right, but do it relatively quickly, because the latest indication that we had was that potentially it could be several years before they decide on where the responsibilities lie. We know that the urban development strategy done in the early 2000s was a crucial piece of planning, forward thinking, that was incredibly helpful after the earthquakes when it came to planning and releasing land for development, to rehome people who had been red zoned. Making sure that we have all of the plans in place will enable us to do a similar piece of work in the event of an event. And again, I'd like to thank staff. It's been phenomenal working with you on this. Look forward to the next stages. And I'd just like to point out to people that we really need to prioritise Plan Change 12 and once and for all stop people building additional risk on properties where we know that there is a high level of risk. Thanks.
Okay, this is good that this is going out for consultation, because what it'll do, hearing this panel will come in, it'll all come back to us, we will vote on it, and I'm sure we'd be daft if we didn't agree with what's going on here, which is great. But we've just got to look at how on earth we were going to pay for that. But we've got to get this part, this is a journey, get it out there, bang, 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 and then it'll be, my God, how much is this going to cost? And but that's way down the track. So in the long run, I always talk about the Teddington Strait, Pauline, as you do. The Teddington Strait could be, just in my head, like the causeway going to Sumner one day. It could be like that. So just have that bouncing around the back of your head. And at high tide, all the land on the inside, on the hillside, could well be wet, like McCormick's Bay is. But this is bloody good. Hell of a lot of good work done by staff. So I think we'll put this, all those, we're going to move and centre. Yep. All those in favour? Against? Thank you very much. That's carried. That's good. Right, number 8. Review of gambling and TAB policy.